Check it out. It's not Wednesday, and we're talking about wild, weird, wonderful werewolf weekend woo woo. But we've got a whole bunch of beasties. How are you doing, Purple Valkyrie?
I am doing very well. Yes, it is Saturday and we are back with the woo woo. And you know how much we love to talk woo woo. So
It's
much
true.
so
We
we
do.
do it twice.
Do it to me one more time. Werewolf Part 2. Hey, Daniel, what's going on? Great to see you. Thanks for showing up today and checking out the Horror Hotel remaster that I did. It was great to see people enjoying that show, especially the awesome taking the clothes off, sexy 60 lady in 60s lady in lingerie. That was a crowd pleaser for sure. Oh, and yeah, also it was a really good story with Christopher Lee in it as well. But it was a very boy forward type of movie thing.
It was. Yes.
Toxic masculinity. Speaking of toxic masculinity, there's our very good friend, longtime channel member, Doviende Setovius again. We, of
Hey.
course, have the Smile a While for me, and you know what I'm going to do. Sarah Smile. I should have picked a different octave, but I don't know how to sing in the first place, so that's my excuse. Great to see you. Hail to Jacob Ironside. Had a great show with our friend Gray of Wakazashi's Tea House. Everybody's talking about horror movies. I kind of like it. Speaking of Wakazashi's Tea House, he's been a member for 6 months. He says, "Good morning from Japan. Hope you're Genki." Of course, I was on Gray's Scream and trolled him last night, told him I had a clip from the movie that they were the horror movie they were watching, and it was really just a manic Chinese man trying to eat a whole watermelon like in a couple bites. And I blame Prophet of the Dragon's 12-year-old son for telling me to do it. That's my excuse. That's pretty good. Hello to Louise X Sparrow. Yeah, I'm kind of like this all the time. Ask Purple Valkyrie.
True story.
Sometimes, there's no crying in baseball, and there's no crying in woo woo. I can't imagine a better Saturday. I could if all the people responsible for the state of the world were in prison or hanging off of lampposts. Hello to Jacob Ironside again. You guys are awesome.
What a great chat. Great to see you guys.
And Smile for a While forgives me of many of my sins, says, not the best key for you to start out on. I'm pretty sure you're not a tenor. I'm not a tenor. I will take a tenor, and you are being very, very too kind. Doviende Setovius again. So, Purple Valkyrie, on Wednesday, we were talking about werewolves and a lot of historical werewolf evidence. I know we wanted to get into some of that today. Before we did that, was there an article you wanted to go with, or what do you want to start out with on this one? Because we're being pretty loosey goosey.
We are, yeah. We've got a lot to cover today, guys. So bear with us. We've got a lot to throw at you, but that's the good thing here on Woo Woo.
Well,
you never know what you're gonna get.
What was the name of that crazy thing that you have pulled up for me? What is that French word?
Yeah. So this comes from a very good friend, Zax. He mentioned a werewolf that I didn't get to, which I'm going to cover, and it is the Beast of Gévaudan.
Oh no! You said the magic word.
I am Frau Blucher.
Would you like me to bring up the article of the Beast of Gévaudan?
I am Frau Blucher.
Today's magic word, kids, is, you know what it is.
Yes, indeed.
I'm going to bring the chat in because I know how to YouTube. I've only been doing this for 2 years. You guys, thank you for being so forgiving. I'm in the middle of editing a whole bunch of really big, complicated stuff for a Halloween show we're doing. And I know you're going to like it. There are a ton of people who have donated a lot of their time and talent to something that I think you guys are going to love. And again, happy pre-Halloween. If you haven't bought candy, I recommend doing it. And yes, I do like Mounds bars. I do. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. So what's the name of this article again? You got like purple?
This is from the Smithsonian. Bless them. It is when the Beast of Gévaudan terrorized France.
It's the magic word.
I'm never going to get tired of that.
Well, maybe that's that well, but this is how my brain is working in a world that seems to get stupider every day that goes by. Tell me more about this awesome vampire. Put out the wine, cut the cheese. We're here for the woo-woo. As long as it's like the cheese and not a metaphorical cheese, I absolutely agree. Certainly.
So let's get into this infamous creature. So it says the tail of this monster grew in the telling, but the carnage it still left behind nearly 100 dead. And can we just appreciate
100? 100?
100.
Tell me more.
Does this thing look like it could take out 100 people? I mean, really?
No, it looks like Bob Marley was high and he wanted to create a coloring book of dogs? Really?
It looks more like a weasel, but I guess we'll go with that. A werewolf, okay?
Look at Jacob Ironside, and what he says is, "Didn't the beast of Javan?"
I am Frau Blucher.
Inspire the movie Brotherhood of the Wolf? I don't know. We may have to look this up. Really?
We'll have to check. I know it's one of the more famous ones, especially in France. But let's see what they've got to say about this infamous beast. So it says the monster's first victim was Jeanne Boulet, a 14-year-old girl who was watching her sheep. This is a recurring theme, by the way. The beast was fond of attacking ladies and sheep in that order. So it goes on to say her death was followed by others, almost exclusively women and children. Of course.
That's called a serial killer, but if we want to blame it on an imaginary stone-looking drawing, I guess we can. That's fine.
So throughout the entirety of 1764, the brutal attacks, the victims with their throats torn out or their heads gnawed off. It didn't mess about whatever this.
Okay, so their throats were torn out and their heads were gnawed off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is interesting. You have my attention.
And apparently France was absolutely riveted by this because they didn't have a lot of entertainment back in 1764. But the violence was so shocking that news of it travelled far and wide, all the way to the Palace of Versailles. So what was the Beast of Jardin?
Oh, jeez. What was it? What did you say? The Beast of where? Purple Velvet?
Jardin!
I am Frau Blucher.
It has to be done. It has to be done. I mean, if the World Economic Fund can go ahead and make kids, they're doing it now. Remember I read you an article, they were feeding mealworms and Christ knows what to kids in Africa. They're now doing it to kids in the Netherlands from ages 8 to 12. They're just literally feeding them these dried bugs on paper plates and telling them how they're saving the planet by doing it. So I would like if we could let this Beast of Javan.
I am Frau Blucher.
Maybe run wild through the World Economic Fund in Brussels, but that's why I'm an extremist. That and my canning and gardening. Hail to Nerdscape, hail to Psychodwarf9, hail again to Sarah Garian, hail to Daniel, everybody, Wakazashi's Tea House. It's great to have everybody here. I'm going to shut up and let you talk about this. I had no idea about this, Purple Valkyrie. This is crazy.
Yes, this is a very infamous monster. So let's see what else this terrible, in quotations, monster did. So the region in southern France is just as mysterious as its monster. It had a reputation for being remote and isolated backwater where the forces of nature could not be fully tamed. Just sounds like France to me, just saying. And apparently they thought that the forests themselves were enchanted. Well, if you think back to things like the Brothers Grimm and those sort of stories, it's all around about the same time.
Yeah. People like to make up stories to explain natural phenomena. So the Brothers Grimm captured a lot of these tales that people who weren't very smart believed in. we have something like that today. It's called climate change and
I'll stick with the
variance
werewolves.
and variance. But yeah, I'll take werewolves and vampires, Alex, for 1,000. Yeah.
And indeed, it's funny that you should mention Brothers Grimm because very much like the stories. But this creature apparently, even though it said above it was over 100, it says this beast racked up nearly 300 victims. Now, I'm not sure if that means people and they're including the sheep. I'm hoping they are because that's a lot of people to be eating.
That's a sizable amount of people.
Yeah, that's village.
I would delineate between people and sheep, and I'm not saying sheep lives don't matter because I'm not a racist or something, but there's a difference between eating sheep, which are, let's be honest, really delicious, and eating people, which I have no interest in sampling, unless of course, like we talked about before the show. I don't know if I actually said that other stuff on air or not, but I can't remember. It's been a long day. Yeah, Daniel, the Jim Butcher books are great. I forget who I was talking about that with. I think it was either Amanda Manethrin or Wakazashi's Tea House or A Prophet of the Dragon. We were talking last night about a whole bunch of fantasy books because even among us, we're just ending up reading the things that we all know and love already. And, it's like comfort food. Purple, I know you do that with your movies and the books that you like, but sometimes you just kind of want to get that oddball thing that comes in. And it's like, you know what? I want to read a different story by somebody else. And not all fantasy authors are the same. Some people love Brandon Sanderson. I think he's pretty good, but not the best. Some people don't like David Eddings. Some people don't like Terry Brooks. It's just one of these things where, you know what? I have walked away from virtually everything called entertainment in current year and not coming back anytime soon. And I'm just going to read, or I'm going to start making entertainment, which is what we're starting to do now collaboratively. And again, we hope you all like that. I'm going to shut up and let you actually finish the article. I'm sorry.
Talking about the werewolf. Well, funny you should talk about that, but apparently this thing, even though it had a massive kill count, kind of went unnoticed until the press got involved and started spreading the rumor of this beast far and wide, and until it actually reached the ears of the king, they didn't really want to do anything about it. I think it was more of a case of out of sight, out of mind. They don't mind it eating a few villagers as long as it didn't get anywhere near the elite.
Yeah. Well, the Reign of Terror did happen, I think, after this, and the whole Bastille Day thing, and that's the thing about revolution is once you start it, it doesn't really stop until there's virtually nobody left, because it's so much fun deleting people, it's like, and that's what the French did, and it essentially destroyed their country for a long time and allowed England, no disrespect, Purple Bucker, that, to kind of take over in a lot of ways, as well as Spain. But that's 18th and 17th century geopolitical observations, and that's not what we do on this show. We talk about werewolves and wolves and woo-woo and horrible things from George Soros. But yeah,
at this point they were just kind of warming up into that. They were on the way, but they weren't quite there yet. So in 1764 the head count rose, and that's when they finally decided to take action. So a captain by the name of Jean-Baptiste de Dumel, leader of the local infantry, organized the first concentrated attack on this thing. At one point the number of volunteers rose to 30,000 men.
What?
A lot of I think they're fudging these numbers a little bit.
I'm not saying the French would ever not do what they say they're going to do, especially in military matters, but just 30,000
for one werewolf. Yeah. But my favorite part is upcoming. So they tried quite a few things to get this thing. They left out poison bait, and they even had some of their soldiers dress as peasant women in the hopes of attracting the beast.
What? I think this is cover for, oh God, I want to say so many things, and you guys know what I want to say. It's like, if you want to cross-dress in the 17th century, don't make up a story about a werewolf eating 300
Yeah, you fly, you do you. It's okay.
I mean, just imagine a French Eddie Izzard. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, I don't know. If I'm a werewolf, I don't think that's going to do it for me. I think I'm going to want that good old-fashioned actual women, the women without the penises. Hello to Mr. Batsu. It's great to see you. Hello to
Hey.
Leia Rose. Thanks for being in chat. You guys are awesome. Thanks for being here. We're trying to laugh ourselves and make you laugh as well as point out the crazy, crazy shit that's probably driving a lot of us all nuts right
Round
now,
the
especially
bend.
me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I just say how much I love these prints and woodcuts that they do of these creatures, and how unconcerned this person is that they've got their head
I was
chewed off.
gonna say, I can't tell if that werewolf is a beautician or is eating her skull. Either way, I'm fine with. It's just werewolf beauticians of France.
I still prefer the one up above, but this is pretty special as well. So let's see what they finally did with this beast. So, for men like him, the hunt was the way to redeem honor after the war. Yeah, right. There are many signs of wounded masculinity among the huntsmen, Smith says, especially a Dumal. He had a highly sensitive regard of his own honor and had some bad experiences in the war, so he decided to take it out on a werewolf to regain his masculinity. Who knew?
Are we putting intersectional feminist deconstruction
so.
on a 250-year-old legends of a French werewolf that ate peasant girls? Send your children to trade school. Welding, diesel mechanics, engine repair, electronics, construction, carpentry, plumbing. Don't let them get degrees like this. Don't let them go to those places because they come out like this, and we can't even have effing werewolves without it being deconstructed.
Oh, this thing's reign of terror continued, and the press absolutely reveled in it because, you know, the press are like for a sensational story, and if the peasantry are being picked off, well, they're going to run with this. We had a couple of stories where a young boy and a group of children managed to fend off the beast by working together and scaring it off with their pikes. I would have liked to have seen that. Pikes.
Okay. Two-way, baby. This is proof that two-way works, man. These guys if they have a pointy stick with a metal shard on the front, imagine if they would have had their 2A handy. These kids would have been dragging that thing back and being heroes of the village. I'm just saying that. Daniel says, "Oh, my dear, you just need a little off the top." Nom, nom, nom.
See, Daniel gets it.
And Jacob Ironside points out the obvious. This werewolf was obviously left-leaning. It had purple hair. What were the werewolf's pronouns? Nom, nom, nom. I don't know. Hi, Dempsey. You're right on time. You know, we're crazy over here. We're still talking about the first story, and I won't shut up and let Purple Valkyrie talk about it. We have a lot to talk about.
Me too. I've nearly got to the end of this bizarre werewolf story, but I will describe it to you because it got even more fantastical, if you believe that. So
there's more.
There is more. It was described. It had a breast as wide as a horse, a body as long as a leopard's. I don't know if they knew what a leopard was back in 17th century France, but let's run with it. And fur that was red with a black stripe. It had highlights. Good to know. So you will undoubtedly think, like I do, that this monster was a hybrid, the father of which is a lion. It's beginning to sound more like a hyena, to be honest.
Yeah, but hyenas would not be native to this climate. I mean, I guess if it was warm. However, France was deep into Africa with trading, among other things, like every other European culture, as well as Asian cultures. It's possible somebody got drunk, brought one of these things back, and then the damn thing was running around just eating sheep. I don't think I think hyenas are opportunistic. They're carrion eaters. They're not necessarily your kind of alpha Chad big cat. I don't know, but something ate all these people, and sheep. What the hell was it?
Well, whatever it was, it could walk on its hind feet and it could repel bullets. So this thing is taking on less of, it's a flesh and blood thing and more fantasy as it goes along, as these stories tend to. But let's see, how did they finally dispatch this thing? So it took them 18 months to continue to stalk the beast, with a further reported 30 to 35 fatalities. They were really bad at this.
What in the hell? I mean, did all the military men, the good ones, get killed like in a war? And then these are all the inbred ones? It's like, if you got an army of 34,000 people to go after one werewolf and you're losing like 35 people, I'm guessing these guys drank themselves to death or stabbed each other over prostitutes or gambling debts. Don't blame this shit on a werewolf. This just sounds kind of white trashy. I'm just going to say that. And Zach, this is your fault because you said we should talk about this. And I forget, what was the name of this creature again? Probably?
It is the Beast of Javadan.
I am Frau Blucher.
Yeah, I did that before the show. I kept going, it's the Beast of Javadan.
I am Frau Blucher.
Hail to you, Zach. It's great to have you back. Sarah Green says, imagine the prospect if Hammer Films got a hold of this for a plot well endowed. This is key. Well endowed. Peasant girls being ravished by the out-of-work soldiers. Well, if you need an extra, I'm a ravisher from way back. So, hail to Nerdscape. It's great to have you here. It's great to see everybody. Jacob Ironside says the werewolf's pronouns were woo and woo. Jacob Ironside wins the hell of a good combat award so far. This is great. And Sarah Green points out what's right in front of our noses. It was a warg.
There you go. Yes.
Can we please have actual goblins and orcs and trolls and wizards running around that are the bad guys? Because we have metaphorical goblins and orcs and wizards that are doing mind control and telling everybody that we don't have enough energy or enough oil and we need to eat bugs. And this one, a shout out to Blippity Blop. The werewolf's pronouns, if you're just catching up now, were woo and woo. All right, Purple Valkyrie, if I interrupt you again, you can throw something at me. I'll shut up.
Well, let's get to the end, and this is how the beast finally, allegedly, met its end. It wasn't at the hands of the soldiers, but it was at the hands of the locals who were so fed up. They took matters into their own hands, and it was actually a local farmer who lured the beast into a bog and then managed to down the thing with a bullet in 1767. So that was the end of it, according to this. But it goes on to say, what was the beast? That is the big question. And they've been debating it pretty much ever since. Was it a lion, a prehistoric holdover, like a dire wolf, as the chat correctly said? Or was it something that had been trained by Chastel himself to attack people and deflect attention from other crimes?
This is a real conundrum. You know, we don't have enough evidence. A lot of this was based on, you know, everybody accused people of being a witch when they were, you know, the hot chick in the village, you know, and they were jealous their husbands were always checking out their goods, you know what I mean, at the market. And so women would just, you know, make up things. She's a witch. She's bewitching my husband because she has a great rack. That's literally, you know, what a lot of this stuff came from. And God knows what this is about, but there was a hell of a body count on this. And the fact that 34,000 dudes got roped into this thing to go run around the woods, God knows what the hell they were doing out there. I'll be honest about it. None of this surprises me because it's in France. I mean, you know, when you kind of do that, you're like, oh, okay. You know, I don't know. This is one of the more interesting cases of what one could say is potentially lycanthropy in the werewolfy sense. It's just, I didn't realize there were 300 bodies to this thing. Really.
Yes.
And Debsy, that's no joke. Back in the day without antibiotics. Yeah. An infected tooth. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Goner.
Absolutely. And Salty's absolutely correct. As it goes on to say here, there were a lot of wolf attacks in France at that time. An estimated 9,000 across the country by the end of the 16th to the beginning of the 19th century. But what marks this one in particular was the enormous body count that it allegedly had, and the fact that this thing just could not be killed for several years, and it terrorized the countryside. And until it started causing problems, they were pretty happy for it to take out the peasantry, which is it kind of sucks.
Interesting. It's interesting. Yeah. I will ask the question of where was the church in this one, but we all know where they were and what they were doing. Daniel says, I believe the Australian military went to war against the wild emus and lost in 1932. I have heard about that.
This is true. They also ended up in a war against themselves and didn't realize until both sides spoke with an Australian accent.
Friendly fire. That's what it's called. Oh, Lord. This is crazy. Yeah. And Daniel goes back to, in his response, he says, I have an Australian friend who told me about it. I had to look it up to believe it. Ha, ha, ha. I'm not saying most Australians have a drinking problem because a very good friend of this channel, Al Dan, is an Aussie, as well as the McCabe's are Aussie. And but I'm just going to say I don't want to keep up with them when they're in their cups because I'll die. Dempsey says a mangy bear looks like a kind of huge wolf. The patches of fur falling out could have been mistaken for a werewolf. Maybe, perhaps, who knows? Dempsey says, are there bears in Europe? There were. They're starting to come back. I know about my brother. They've reintroduced a bear population in Romania because the northern part, once you get out of Bucharest and out of Transylvania, which is primarily farm country, you go up toward the Romanian Alps, which are actually quite beautiful. And some of the only remaining medieval villages that escaped bombardment during World War II by both the Axis and, of course, the Allies were there. So it's crazy that there's a town called Brasov, which has all of this medieval stuff that it didn't get destroyed. And I have a point. I'll get there. But they're introducing bears up there because they were native to that mountainous region because, of course, bears hibernate. They go up into the hills and the mountains. They find a cave. They do all this stuff, But as far as other parts of Europe, Purple, I don't think you guys have bears in France unless they're the ones in London that lead alternative lifestyles. Is that correct?
Pretty much. Absolutely. You're correct. Yeah. And I think probably a few thousand years ago, we probably had bears in the UK as well, but the population was wiped out, the same as wolves we used to have. And a few years ago, somebody had the bright idea of, maybe we should reintroduce wolves back into Britain. And then they realized what a terrible idea that would be, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, people forget who subsidized the eradication of a lot of species throughout the world, but in North America in particular. It would be the same corporations that are essentially in place now, working with the government to eradicate the buffalo, to eradicate the wolves. I know that happened in the upper Midwest, and they hunted them to extinction, essentially. I was a kid in the 70s when they reintroduced wolves into northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the upper peninsula of Michigan. And everybody was still losing their minds in the 70s and 80s. Oh my God, wolves! There's something deeply ingrained in us in the fear of wolves. You say bear, you're like, who cares? You say wolf, you're like, oh my God, get the shotty, Anyway, now we've got a thriving wolf population in those regions. Now, sometimes it attacks livestock, but that's how it goes. The state pays for it. But never forget who causes a lot of the problems that they blame on other people, just like is happening now. Take a look at your currency. Take a look at your energy markets. Daniel's been a channel member for 6 months. He says 30,000 men versus one werewolf should be a movie. It's true. What was it? God, you showed me a movie the other day. What was it? Bigfoot versus... What the hell was it, Purple Valkyrie? I couldn't stop laughing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was Bigfoot versus the Illuminati. That was it.
I want to watch this.
It's on the to-watch list.
as a channel members live stream, Bigfoot versus the Illuminati. I can't believe this exists. We know what level of awesomeness it's going to be, which means it exceeds every single Marvel, Disney Star Wars show, and the Rings of Power combined as far as watchability, believability, character, and probably the soundtrack. So I am truly excited. Again, the movie is called Bigfoot versus the Illuminati. Oh God. Jacob Ironside says, what big teeth you have, all the better to fix your hair with. Oh girl, I can see your roots. Get in here. 2 snaps in the Z. Mr. Wolf, take care of you. Yeah, I've heard of the Jersey Devil. I have. It's there's a lot of those stories of Chupacabra, Bigfoot. I've actually got a really cool story about Bigfoot in Pennsylvania. But what else do we got in chat? The Awesome One says, hail Salt. Well, hail to you, Awesome One. Thanks for being here. It's great to see you guys. Dempsey says, bears are famously hard to fell with bullets. That's right. One of the things that they taught us, we used to bring firearms to school back in the day. You just put them over there. Is if you're going to use a pew-pew with a bear, you can't shoot it in the shoulder. You can't. You got to go right here. And if you're not shooting anything less than like a super high caliber round, it's not going to penetrate their skull because their skulls are really thick. So I've always kind of lived by the rule of don't F with bears, like ever. And I've seen grizzlies like in northern British Columbia and in the Yukon and Alaska. And you know what? I don't get out and take pictures. You know what? I don't even really slow down because I had a Siberian Husky in the truck and my dog's going nuts. Like, let me out so the bears can eat me, you know? And it's like, nah, we're good. We're just going to keep driving. But I've seen plenty of black bears too, you know? And it's just one of those things where I've been to so many national parks and I watch these people get out of their cars and stop us, you know, on this crowded road, like if it's Glacier or Yellowstone, you know, the morons who don't even get over. And then they're like, literally, they're the largest people with the lowest amount of cardiovascular capacity. And they're just doing this. They're holding their cell phones in front of them like this. And they're not looking at traffic, not realizing that bear could just be like 3 or 4 jumps. And it's got a really fat, delicious, juicy, stupid white person to eat, you know?
That's a Darwin Award waiting to happen.
I'm not saying I'm rooting for the bears. I'm just saying I'm not rooting for the bears.
Don't they do that with the bison as well? Try and get too close and just...
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. I've been caught in a very undesirable situation with bison that I didn't put myself in. I turned around and this herd of bison that was across the street had somehow made it all the way while I was dicking around on my cell phone trying to shoot a shot of a glacier. And suddenly I'm surrounded by bison. So I just kind of climbed on the hood of my car and was like, this is not how Salty Texas Sea wants to die. It's really not. It's really not. But true story. Awesome One says, Drunk 3PO is our Canadian bear. Well, you know, I'm not judging. I'm still taller than Jay. Told him that to his face when we met. He laughed. Jay's a decent guy. He's a good guy. Yeah, smile a lot for me. Isn't that how many problems get fixed? The average person does what the government's job can't do, and the government gets the credit. Yeah. Yes, it is. They just want to get rid of us now because that populism and that individuality in our humanity needs to be replaced with transhumanism because reasons. I wake up every day going, why? Why? I don't know. Evil is evil. You know what you don't do with evil? You don't negotiate with evil. You don't capitulate with evil. Awesome One, bison is tasty. I do love a rare bison burger with like a healthy amount of unhealthy cheddar cheese on the top, some raw onion, and a beautiful bun. Make it 2, and let's have some fries. You know what I mean? Bison burgers all around. You know who's going to pay for it? Oh God, chat jumped on me. I was going to make a really good joke and it just jumped on me because that's because YouTube just hates us, doesn't it? Purple, go ahead. Do you got any more to that story? I'm so behind on chat. Here we go.
That was it. That was the end of Famous Beast, basically. So
where was that? Where was that beast from?
That was the Beast of Gévaudan.
I am Paul Blucher.
of course, Javadon
I am Frau Blucher.
is the word of the day. So there we go. I just had to do it. I make the mistake of reading the news, and it just makes me want to
Yes, the word of
build
the
a
day.
bunker in New Zealand. Can we just say that? Zach says, what you are discounting is this, that there's a documentary called La Parc de la Loups starring Mark Dassalacanasolosis, who was also the Iron Chef for a time. It doesn't get more real. Okay, now I have to figure out what this is. I think I've seen that movie or a documentary. I think I've seen that.
It rings a bell. I don't think I've watched it, but I think I remember it. But I definitely hunt it down.
It's true. Awesome One says bears mostly fish. Wolves eat more deer and pets. Although I have seen bears eat pets, I have. One thing I have seen is salmon spawning in Washington State, and there's a couple famous places where you can see that, where the salmon falls are, and it's not in Seattle or Ballard. Is you kind of got to be careful because it's easy pickings, you know. The bears, all bears, want to come out and get that salmon because salmon's rich in oils. Obviously, it's a very delicious fish. But you know, when winter's coming, bears are scavengers, you know, like just they'll eat all these damn salmon that have washed up. And you probably don't want to be around, like go taking a picture with your arm around it. That's all I'm going to say. Sarah Green says, in Pennsylvania, the deer population was so out of control, so some brainiac introduced coyotes to keep the herds down. Guess what? The coyotes became a worse problem than the deer. Yes, leave things alone. You are not smarter than nature. Every time we've done that, bad shit has happened. Now we're doing it with children and bugs. What could go wrong? Oh, yeah, in vaccines that alter
everything. That's what.
The cellular structure of your internal organs and can pass on things to children through breast milk. But we can't talk about that because that's, friends, is what's called disinformation. Disinformation is what's actually going on. Disinformation, you can't know. You have to just be told lies nonstop, because otherwise, how will you give up your national identity and understand the nuclear family, democracy, and capitalism are terrible for really rich old men in Europe who hate you? This is the world we live in. Dempsey, by the way, that horror hotel restoration was amazing. Thank you. I had a lot of fun with that one. There were a lot of great scenes in that. Christopher Lee was fantastic. It just blew my mind that Christopher Lee, I'd never heard him do an American accent. And all of those actors and actresses were in the UK. That entire production was done in England, and they were trying to pull off New England accents. Now,
how did
I don't
you
know.
find them? What did you think of the accents?
They were pretty good. The thing about New England is New England has some very interesting accents. Now, you got Boston, you got Rhode Island, there are parts of Western Connecticut. Then, of course, you got the Maine accent, you know, like, can't get there from here, you know, like, you know, an Orville Redenbach or whatever the hell that thing was. There are different regional accents. There really are. And in the same way that, like, there are accents from people from Nova Scotia and the Labrador Coast. I've had friends from there, which is very different than, you know, accents from Ontario and Manitoba, British Columbia. Yeah, there's a YouTube creator that a lot of us have worked with, and I won't out him, who's from British Columbia, and I can tell, you know, I mean, it's just everybody has different accents. So, but yeah, I thought they were pretty good. You know, again, I'm so used to working with this English person that I don't even really notice it anymore. So I don't know. What did you think of the American accents, Purple Valkyrie?
I was surprised, and as you say, this is the first time I've ever heard him, and I think only time I've ever heard him do an American accent, and to my untrained ear, he seemed to nail it.
Yeah, that was a cool movie. And it's fascinating because that movie came out in 1960, the same year that Psycho did. And there was another movie, I think it was Nerdporia Lifeform. Where the hell is Brian when they need him? Another movie came out that he covered that same year. But it's wild just looking at the iconography and the casting for Horror Hotel, and then look at the casting, the choices that they had for Psycho. I'm not saying the two movies are equal. I'm just saying that it was interesting, you know? And I did love the jazz soundtrack of Horror Hotel. I mean, really, that was pretty damn awesome. So Smile for a while is advocating for buffalo, says buffalo will run you down too. Even domesticated buffalo, they commonly turn on their handlers. You know what I like? You know what kind of buffalo I like to have turned is my buffalo ribeye or my buffalo hamburger on the grill. I love when they turn themselves, and then I turn them into dinner. Awesome one says, punch the bear like in the commercials. Yeah, go ahead. I'll take the pictures and I will put them on social media while I'm in the truck. But yeah, awesome one. I got your back. Totally not going to drive off and let you be eaten. Your remains be carried away. I would never do that. It's true. Bison is delicious. Speaking as someone who is least allergic to bison meat out of all the red meats. It's true. It's also very low in fat. So if you have heart disease, high blood pressure, things along those lines, venison along with bison are a very good meat source. You know what's not a very good meat source? Eating fucking bugs. There, YouTube.
Not a lot of meat on them. No.
I am so done pretending this. We're not going to live complying. I'm just going to say that. That's not how this works. I'm not thanking anybody while they lead me into the gas chamber. You guys remember how that worked in World War II? They're doing it in slow motion. And I'm tired of this bullshit. You guys, it's getting exhausting. All of it. Again, would I want to live in a world full of vampires, werewolves, the mummy, invisible things, witches, demon curses, Balrogs, and Sauron, not the asshole that's on the Rings of Power. I mean, you know, Tolkien, Sauron, rather than deal with evil fucking people embedded in so many positions of power. I don't know how to fight this kind of evil. It kind of makes me crazy. It's probably too much information, but I don't know if you guys in chat are feeling it too, because it's getting old. Zach says, Bison are violently opposed to being eaten. That's okay. I'll bring my little friend 2A. Yeah, I go to Costco to get my bison. I don't run around with a chainsaw by the side of the road, as glamorous as that may sound, and take off a piece. It's true. We got Daniel dropping some knowledge that's probably going to end me up in one of those January 6th gulags. If the society knew how to handle werewolves eating hundreds of people better, then we knew how to handle a bad flu season. Oops, did I say that? Yes, you did, but that's okay. I want Daniel to be in the cell next to me so we can tap Morse code to each other while we're waiting to be charged with treason for talking common sense.
You two can reenact that scene from V for Vendetta where they're passing messages back and forth.
God damn it, guys. This is dumb. It's like, it's not even Clown World. It's I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. And you know what? I took care of this, Sarah Green. Disinformation will now get you a $2,500 fine from PayPal. Yeah, that's why I quit PayPal several days ago. And it sucks, but F them. Because really, you know, they don't understand the downstream effects of people walking away, because it doesn't just affect those ass clowns at PayPal. It affects the merchants. It affects the other globalist tools that rely on them to be their middleware for transactions like this. It's happening everywhere. I first heard about being fined for disinformation on the West Coast, and it came from a governor there who said, we need to have substantial fines for anybody who's talking about misinformation. Misinformation, 99 times out of 100 is the actual truth of what is actually happening. Now, these are people that own all the media companies, have destroyed our entertainment, have infiltrated our schools, and they're worried about people like me. What does that tell you about how absolutely unbelievable the shit is that they're trying to spout? Do you know what I mean? I'm a dude in his office with like records, you know, and cheap lighting, and simply pointing out the obvious without an agenda. That's dangerous to the most highly advanced technological society ever that we know of in human history, run by the most highest tech companies with the backing of international finance, and they're worried about me. This doesn't sound like somebody thought this out too well. You know what happens when the lies stop being believed? Is that's when the violence starts. We're kind of there now. Let's talk about woo woo before I really do have the FBI kick in my door because they have nothing better to do. I think they've arrested all of the pro-life people and people who wanted to offer pregnancy resources to individuals. Let's talk about shipwrecks. This is a shipwreck, and this is absolutely freaking fascinating. So this ship sank on Lake Superior. I was talking about Lake Superior on Purple Show on Wednesday as well as my own last Saturday. It sank 120 years ago. Now check this thing out. It's actually, at the time, it was a fairly ingenious way of creating what looks to be an unsinkable barge given the major storms that occurred on the Great Lakes. Now, everybody, again, is familiar with the Gordon Lightfoot song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I've spent a lot of time on the Great Lakes, and I have watched the wind come up in the winter, and it is no joke. I've been on rough seas on the ocean. I try not to do that, though. But on the Great Lakes, man, that's something else. And those people who are from Canada, you guys know what it's like on the other side. What you're looking at is the vessel that would be on the right side. That is what sank on October 13th, 1902. This was a vessel that was used to haul ore. It was 300 feet long. They built this thing by hand in 1902. So it was found at the bottom of Lake Superior 100 years after it sank. Now, it didn't have a sexy name like, the glistening vixen or her supple bottom. It was just called Barge 129. And it sank approximately 45 miles off Vermilion Point and was at about 650 feet of water. Now, that information comes from a Detroit newspaper. Quote, I've looked for this ship for so long because it was something called a whaleback. Director of the Marine Operations for the Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society, adding he couldn't wait to record it on film. So that's what I said. Remember how that crazy ship looked? Barge 129? That is a whaleback. So there it is at the dock, at the shipyards.
Looks like a metal banana.
You see the shape of it? That's a whaleback. So what it was is this was a heavily laden vessel used for freighting raw ore from the Great Lakes because up there's a lot of iron, a lot of lead, a whole bunch of other minerals, copper at that time, that they took from the northern Great Lakes and would then take to manufacturing facilities like in Detroit, Chicago, further out, into the East Coast, along the locks or wherever it is. But this boat was 300 feet long. And look at it. Look at all of these crazy things. So here is an image. Oh, God, I hate these websites so much. I have my adware blocking this website. Do you know how many trackers I'm blocking? 108. 100. Why does any website need 108 track? Well, fuck you then. I'm not going to look at it. You guys can see the pictures. This is what it looks like on the bottom. 108. I can't wait for my social credit score. It's going to be negative like 10,000. The only thing they'll let me eat is dirt. I can't even eat the bugs because I'm not cool enough with whatever they got planned for everybody. But look at this. You can see the shipwreck. You can see how this was a whaleback vessel. And look, there's cheap Chinese shit that's ugly. All right, Barge 129 sank again on October 13, 2009. It was in tow behind a steamer, Mauna Loa, and it was downbound with a load of iron ore when they ran into a powerful October storm. Now, of course, the Edmund Fitzgerald ran into a November storm. So doesn't really matter. It's hella storms up there. In the heavy seas strained this thing being towed by the barge, and eventually the tow line snapped on the connecting ships. Barge 129 was just literally tossed around, and this boat was probably overloaded with nothing with iron ore, with nothing on it, and the damn thing just got buffeted, broke up, and sank. And you could tell by the debris field that it looks like it split. And probably when it hit the bottom, it probably cracked even more. But the Mauna Loa, this ship that was trying to tow it, attempted to reconnect the tow line in this huge gale. And again, it's 1902. There's no Coast Guard. There's no lifeboats. There's no life jackets. It's if you go down, your wife is a widow, dude. And guess what? The company doesn't care. They'll find plenty of other Poles and Germans and poor Irish to come and work on this boat for nothing.
Give them A for effort, though.
Corporations haven't changed that much, have they? Funny how that is. Anyway, the wind and the waves slammed the two ships together, and the Mauna Loa's port side anchor ripped into barge 129 starboard side. The barge, loaded with iron ore, began to sink, and Captain Josiah Bailey and his crew quickly GTFO'd and tried to launch their lifeboat. The crew of the Mauna Loa stood by and eventually helped the few crew on the sinking iron metal boat into their ship, just as this whale-back ore ship then split up and dove to the bottom of Lake Superior. Here's some video footage showing it on the 700 feet of water.
Wow.
Now, of course, this is the Great Lakes. It's fresh water. It's very cold water.
And is this one of the deeper lakes in the Great Lakes?
Lake Superior, yeah. Lake Superior is. But you can see visibility is crap. It's silt, you know. I mean, it's not pollution. This is just how things roll. But this boat, look at it. It sank in 1902. And we're still only just finding things in the Great Lakes like this. It's amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing stuff. So thanks for letting me rant about that. I love hearing things like that. Not that there was a shipwreck, but just that there's cool stuff like this, you know? And I love talking about vampires and werewolves and aliens and encounters and all that stuff. But it's crazy the kind of stuff that's actually really woo and strange that's out there, that there's no one alive right now that would have remembered this ship. There's probably no one alive who even remembered anybody who was on this ship. And there may not even be anybody alive who was a child of someone who was on this ship. It's crazy. This is a long time ago. So, hail to you, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And one, I'd never heard of these type of ships before. And two, it's incredible to see the footage. And you said that the water's incredibly cold. I'm guessing that's why it's so well preserved.
Fresh water. The cold and the fresh water really do it. Yeah. It's an excellent preservative. And a lot of the sailing vessels that are out there, the wooden ones, they're still fairly well kept, but it's weird. You know, a lot of invasive species from China have gotten into our Great Lakes water system and decimated the native populations of bass, trout, whitefish, sports fish, pike, all those things, and taken over. There's something called a gulby. And where that horrible shit from China came from was they'd blow out their bilge pumps into the Great Lakes. You know, with all the filthy, horrifying crap they brought from over there, they just decided to blow it all into our fresh water system, and that's where these terrible invasive species are.
Ew.
And I don't want to dwell in the negative, but I remember as a kid in the 70s and 80s, there were a hell of a lot more fish. And last time I was up there hanging out, going fishing, all I caught were these goddamn things called gulbies. And they kind of look like a mix between like an eel and a fish, and they're just ugly and stupid. And let's just say I bashed a lot of them to death on the rocks. I was a serial killer of gulbies. That was my mission. I was so pissed off. Because I love to fish. I love to hunt, you know?
Smile a while for me. It's in that area, and she says, "Yeah, zebra mussels have been devastating." Yeah, it's horrific.
Zebra mussels. Yeah. I live about a block or two from the Colorado River here in Texas, and I walk down there, and there are signs everywhere. It's like, clean your boat. Don't transport these damn things, because stuff's coming down the Colorado or up to Colorado, depending on how you're looking at it. And there are things from other continents that really just belong in other continents, like parasitic eel fish that destroy your actual North American fish population. I know, and yes,
the bees got introduced.
Yeah, the bees from South America. That was a thing that happened in the 70s. Also, the trout that were brought over from Germany, I believe, that wiped out a lot of the native species of trout that were here, because really, you guys are going to love this, really wealthy people didn't like the native species that were here in North America for trout. So they brought a bunch of trout over from Europe, decided to put them in the streams, and guess what they did? They decimated the local native fish populations. But they're rich people, so they're right, regardless of the harm they do. And the problem was it's us. We're the problem. You know what I mean? And I know what a snakehead is. I have done 2A on that. I also have a golf club. Just gonna stop there. Dempsey says, I just found this. Lake Superior is the largest freshwater lake in the world by surface area. It contains 10% of the world's fresh water and covers an area of 71,700 square miles, or for those of you who know the metric system, which I don't, it's 82,000 kilometers squared. Does that sound big to you if I say it like that? Do I sound like smart?
That's a lot of lake.
Yeah, there's a reason why. You guys know Foxconn, the ones with the self-deletion nets over in China that, use labor that's forced to make iPhones for people with blue hair and pronouns. They tried to scam a state in the Midwest, and they wanted to build a factory on Lake Michigan, but the only way they said they were going to build it is if they had water rights to take 5 million gallons a day out of Lake Michigan to do whatever they wanted with it. They would build a factory. They said they would build a factory that would employ 40,000 people in a Rust Belt state. Well, politicians in these states are desperate and not too fucking bright either. So they started to build this thing, and then when they, and they gave them all these tax breaks so they could build this factory. And then once the factory was like half built, and again, this is a company from China not paying taxes on it, they're like, no, we're just kidding. We want 20 million gallons of fresh water a day and take it out of your lake, Lake Michigan. Well, that didn't go over too well with the local populations, and the politicians eventually realizing they wouldn't be in their cushy jobs to do whatever George Soros tells them to do, decided to pretend that they're not going to allow that to happen. But make no mistake about it, the resources of North America have been pretty well tended to, especially like this. We're one of the only nations to have this amount of land dedicated to National Forest Reserve, National Park Reserves. And one thing? We don't have huge open pit, large scale lithium mining yet, like they do over there. It's something they're trying to push through here so that we can turn North America into the globalist utopia that is so eco-friendly and green. All China. You can't make this shit up. And I don't care what YouTube does to me anymore. I'm not going along with this. I'm just not. I'm over it. Purple Valkyrie, what do you want to talk about next? What do you guys want to talk about next? Yeah, Dempsey's, that's no joke. Lake Erie used to catch fire. It did that when I was there, dude. I went to college in Ohio, man. Yeah, they got it together. But again, where did all that pollution come from? It didn't come from people. It came from all of the metal processing and the things around the car industry, as well as Chicago, Cleveland, things along those lines. It's absolutely insane. And the people who are responsible for doing that, I guarantee you, their children are in positions of power and finance. Purple Valkyrie, talk to me.
Yeah, since we're talking about weird things found in lakes, how would you guys like to see the 7 legendary cryptids that turned out to be real and
trust the science?
Given value of real.
Trust the science. The science knows everything. The science was never wrong until they are.
Until they are, exactly.
Tell me what you got here. Tell me what you got.
So it says cryptozoology is the search and study for animals that mainstream science considers to be mythical or non-existent. Animals studied by cryptozoologists are called cryptids. You guys know how much we love cryptids here. Famous examples are always popular Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Yeti, Wendigo, all of these famous creatures. But unsurprisingly, there are quite a few that don't believe in these things, and they're kind of mocked and derided in scientific circles, which is kind of sucky because you think scientists they've got an opinion, they don't
No, they
decide on
don't.
anything.
They're more worried about achieving equity in in pediatrics or something, or dispelling whiteness in brain surgery. This is literally the papers that are being written and presented at the AMA, as well as other specialist societies. I'm going to go to a witch doctor if I got something wrong. I'm going to witch doctors from now on.
But it's as if we've got some famous cryptids that aren't actually cryptids anymore. So number one is one of my favourite animals, and we've talked about Australia. It is the platypus. Now, if you were to describe this to somebody, you would think that they were making this up, and for the longest time, they did.
There was a it was a Looney Tunes cartoon where Daffy Duck was turned into something that looked like a polka dotted zebra striped platypus because it was a cryptid. They hadn't figured out that the platypus was real yet, and they were just making fun of people and calling them screwballs. You know what's terrifying is Sarah Garian said she got quiet because she had a kitten that jumped into the toilet.
What? Okay. The kitten's okay.
I'm not saying I hope it's okay. Do what my grandpa used to do. Give it some blackberry brandy and play checkers with it. That's what happened whenever, I did something stupid, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Go ahead, Pro.
I want to see the kitten. So the platypus, as you know, is a small, furry Australian mammal that lives in rivers. It has feet like an otter, a tail of a beaver. So far, not too weird, I guess, but it gets weirder. They also have a head that looks like a duck.
Sounds like Hillary Clinton now, but go ahead.
And then it gets even weirder because this thing really is an anomaly. It is a mammal, but it lays eggs, and it's one of only 5 living mammal species to do so. And I think they all reside in Australia, if I remember correctly, the echidna being one of them. But ever since they've discovered platypus, they are no longer cryptids, but they still look like cryptids, but they're adorable.
Yeah. Platypuses are weird. This damn thing lays an egg.
It does, but look at it. Look. And they're also venomous, the males. They have spurs on their hind feet.
Nobody told me that the males had... Okay, why does this exist? I'm not saying it can't exist. I'm not saying I have a problem with it. And the fact that it's from Australia tells you everything you need to know. Look at the spiders. Look at the sharks. Now they got this cute little thing. It's like, oh, look, it's got little flippers, and look, it's got a duck bill, and look, it lays eggs, and then it comes up and scratches you, and then you die. It's like how very, very Australian. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, platypus, Australian for hemorrhaging. Yeah, okay.
It is, yeah. Venomous mammal is basically unheard of, and the male platypus is one of the few. And it produces venom from glands on its hind ankles. Don't know what it's used for other than defense against other males, but I wouldn't recommend picking one up. But for the longest time, these things were thought to be a hoax, similar to the mermaid corpses. They thought these things were something that people had kind of put together in taxidermied until they finally came across live ones. But I'm really glad that these exist because they're one of my favorite animals. I think they're wonderful.
I remember seeing pictures of this as a little kid going, that's not real. And I mean, I look at it now and I'm like, this should not exist. It really shouldn't. And now the fact that they're a mammal that has venom
and locates through electrodes, so they can sense electricity in the water.
Oh, like bats. Oh no,
and an eel.
So like eels and sharks.
Yeah.
Does somebody want to tell me what the hell happened 11,600 years ago? Because we all know what happens when there's a mass extinction level event. Very much smaller, less lethal forms of much larger beasts that were dominant at the time survive. What the hell was this thing before we had the major climate changing asteroidal impact 12,000 years ago? What the hell was this? That's all I want to say. This is absolutely insane.
This thing is basically just all the leftover parts just kind of crammed together and just, there you go. we'll make it into something different. But
Yeah.
I love it. And then we have one that we've
Look at
talked
this.
about extensively. I think it was a couple of weeks ago on this very channel. It is the giant squid, and we talked in detail about the colossal squid and the kraken that is the mythology. But as you know, these things do exist, and occasionally they wash up on shores. But we were talking about whales that have been attacked and ships. Salty was talking about that had been taken out as well.
Oh yeah, that destroyer that had those huge claw marks
Mm-hmm.
on a metal destroyer, which was 700 feet long, and just again, don't got any time for that, but plenty of time to hire the diversity and inclusion people. Hello to Teresa. Hello to you, Ms. Martin Muses. It's wonderful to see you. I watched your show yesterday. You guys are awesome. They were talking about Halloween stuff. It's awesome.
Nice.
I love all this Halloween stuff. It makes me want to eat candy though, so that's a problem.
We need to do a show just talking about candy. That would be fun.
No, I can't eat any more candy. I don't need to eat candy. Jacob Ironside says, don't forget those cute giant rabbits they have in Australia that can gut you with their back legs.
Australia is a very strange place. I've been there. It's a very fun place, but everything is dangerous. Yeah. Everything can kill you, including the weather and the any animal. There's
a geography professor that I watch videos on. I like him a lot. His name is Nick Zentner. He's a professor, I believe, at Central Washington State University. Really, really good guy. Really fun guy. Makes geology and geography fun, but also talks about the ancient way the planet worked and looked and how the landmass is locked in, all these other things. Again, Nick Zentner. Can't recommend him enough. Good guy. Australia was attached to what is now parts of British Columbia and Western Washington State. It's kind of crazy. Not only that, but Mexico is actually attached to British Columbia and parts of Alaska. So, like, it's fascinating. The same geology was there. Now, is it possible that an animal was just like, you know what, I'm just going to wake up on this little, I'm going to wade across this little body of water. And they woke up and the damn island's like moving farther and farther away. And they're like, well, shit, what do we do now? And then you got a duck hanging with like a poison something. And they're like, you know what, I'm lonely. Let's do it. And then you end up with a platypus. I don't know. I don't know how it worked. Let's get it on. Miss Martin Muses, she's throwing the giant squid out there. It's true. They didn't believe that the giant squid existed. There are documentaries that they used to make us watch on film strips when I was a kid because they had all this old crap, and it's like the teachers don't want to deal with you anymore to like stuff you someplace with a film projector. And they're like, we're not sure this giant squid exists. Well, yeah, the giant squid exists. But sorry, go ahead.
It does. And very much like this next cryptid, sea serpent. So it even says here, much like the case of the giant squid, for a long time scientists thought that sea serpents were monsters that were just too big to be real. Cryptozoologists, however, believe that many of these historic sightings of sea monsters are cases of real animals being misidentified, which is not too far from what probably happened, and then giving a superstitious twist. One incredibly rare species is perhaps likely the culprit. I don't know what this is, but I'm going to class it as a nope.
I'm going to kill it with fire. I'm going to kill that with fire. That's what I'm going to do.
It's an oarfish, according to this. So it's a long, bony fish with an elongated body that can grow to at least 56 feet or 17 meters.
6 feet long?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've seen some big sturgeons, and I've seen some big things out in freshwater, and I've seen big things out on blue water. I've never seen something like that, man. That's
it's weird. So usually, of course, similar to the squid, they usually live deep in the ocean, but sometimes they get washed ashore during storms, and then also when they die, they obviously surface. And this one's apparently sunbathing at the moment.
Okay, fish that get out of the water to get a tan. I'm willing to live and let live, but if this thing starts inching toward me, no.
The
No,
way it's lying,
no.
it kind of looks like a giant centipede, you know, with the frill. I'm guessing this is
Oh,
like a
yeah.
fin along its
Yeah.
back, and that's
I've
what I thought
seen
it was at
this.
first. Yeah.
I've seen this as claymation in a Harry Hanhausen movie with like The
Yes.
Land Before Time. It doesn't go well. So,
Uh-uh.
you know, 20 gauge. That's all I'm going to say. Nerdscape says, has anyone seen the feral domestic cats? Scary stuff. Well, Purple Valkyrie was talking about those crazy black cats that you have on the moors. What is it? Boddington Moor?
Yeah, Exmoor, Dartmoor, yeah. There's been for hundreds of years stories of wild cats and giant cats and black cats, and we do have a wild cat, not like a mountain lion, but it's in Scotland. It basically looks like a
It's
tabby
like this
with a bag
big.
on.
It's big and it's adorable. It looks like a
Yeah.
chipmunk, like a chipmunk and a cat got together. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's not lethal in certain situations. I'm just saying it's more adorable. It's the type of feral cat if you like cats, you'd get as a Christmas ornament to put on.
Yeah, you kind of want to go over and pet it. Exactly. But I kind of like the idea that this giant oarfish is a sea serpent, and apparently the first live one wasn't filmed in 2001, which shows how rare these things are.
I'd
I
never seen
knew of
this.
them, but I've never seen them. So
Trust the science. I was long gone from college after they found a lot of these things. And it's not like I'm 10,000 years old. We're finding new things all the time. We really are.
this next one I'm just going to kind of gloss over because I think it's too much of a stretch. So apparently that they think the unicorn was actually a misidentified rhino.
No.
No, I'm sorry. No, they're trying to blame this on good old Pliny the Elder and his description, saying that that's what he was describing, but I don't think so. I believe in unicorns. I think unicorns really do exist.
That was a good cartoon, The Last Unicorn. You're the one who told me that I should watch it. And I enjoyed it.
Yes, and
Yeah.
also had Christopher Lee in. It's like,
Yeah. I mean, Mia Farrow can't sing. It almost destroyed the movie, but it's a good movie. If you haven't watched it, watch The Last Unicorn. It's a good movie.
I completely blocked that out of memory, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, if you
Oh,
don't mind
God.
muting that song, it's a great film.
Yeah, I mean, dude, she married Woody Allen. I'm just gonna say that. So, yeah.
The other thing that they blame the unicorns on is narwhals. Now, narwhals are pretty darn awesome on their own, but back in like medieval times and the Renaissance, narwhal horns were prized possessions, and I've seen them in kind of like antique shops, and these things are enormous. They're like 3 meters long. These horns.
Oh yeah. Oh
They're
yeah.
crazy. I would actually like to have one, but I don't know what to do with it. But it would be interesting curio. But again, would you really confuse this with a unicorn? I don't think so.
No. And I understand being on ship for and needing to do the horizontal boogaloo, but you're not looking at something like that going, yeah, that's a chick who's got this big thing sticking out of the.
And these last couple, they're a little bit of a stretch. We've got the Komodo dragon, we've got the gorilla, and we've got the okapi. Now, all of these things obviously exist, but they argue with all of these because they weren't seen by knowledgeable people. They didn't exist, but the people that lived with these creatures always knew that they existed. So it wasn't so much that they were cryptids, it was just that scientists didn't believe them until they saw them with their own eyes, which is kind of unfortunate because this thing is awesome. Look at that.
It is awesome. Look at that.
It's
Looks
beautiful.
stylish. It's beautiful too. And
like a
Sarah Green,
deer.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Unicorns like finding a good spouse. It's true. Very true. Sorry, Purple. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, not at all. I just really like this creature, and this is one that I remember seeing back when I was a kid, and I didn't know what it was. I thought, maybe it's like a zebra or a cow or a deer, or apparently it's quite closely related to a giraffe. But I think they're amazing. I think they're really, really cool.
Somewhere there is a giraffe and a zebra that never actually got their numbers, and somebody went home and was told a story about who their daddy was. That's all I'm going to say. It was
But
the 60s. They were free love, baby. Yeah.
don't judge. Exactly. We don't judge here.
Hello to Abomination AJ. It's great to see you.
Hey, good to
Fantastic
see you.
creator. Hopping on a lot of people's shows. AJ, if you're free later tonight, I don't know if you have a busy schedule, hit me as a DM. I'd like to pick your brain on something. As a project I'm working on, I'd like to use your talents on. So I know I could just write an email, but if I don't do it now, I'm going to forget. But hail to you. Thanks for being here. It's great to see you. Same thing with Punkwaddle. Hit me in the DM. I've got some stuff that I would like to talk with you about, my friend. I know you have the Cotton Connection show tonight, but still, if you can spare me a couple minutes, I'd appreciate it. I don't mean for this show to be Salty's, answering service, but people are right in front of me, and when I get off of this, I'm going to go have a big glass of wine and go, I'll do it tomorrow. Problem is, there's not enough days in the weekend. There's too many damn days during the week. There's not enough.
This is true. We need to rebalance. Yes.
Look at this. Abomination AJ. He said those creatures were in The Lion King 2. Now, I didn't see Lion King 2, but that's cool. Yeah, these were creatures that I hadn't seen pictures of as a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, and maybe there were like some black and white ones, but All right, we might have a bad joke here from Jacob Ironsides. Did you all know that some narwhals have 2 horns? What? Really? Wow. Fascinating stuff. Someone's going to slide into my DMs. Oh, baby, take me out to dinner first. It's great to see you, Punkwaddle. Yeah. So do you want to, is there something you desperately want to cover, or shall I go ahead and cruise us to that all important hour and a half mark?
Yeah, you go ahead. Like you said, we've talked about this before. We never ever run out of topics to cover, which is why I love talking woo-woo.
Yeah, and I also get to say what it is that we all know is going on in the world, and I reached this point of whatever, PayPal was your wake-up call. Don't think that YouTube isn't going to do the same. So hail to you. So this is an interesting article. I actually saw this last week, and I was like, but this is interesting because it's still happening. Now, what am I referring to? This is, of course, cryptid related, and people are still finding this in Pennsylvania state parks on the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources letterhead. So people are finding Bigfoot warning posters in the Pennsylvania wilderness along with signs. So you can see what's written on a tree. These multiple people have posted this. Due to encounters in the area of a creature resembling Bigfoot, we are instructing all park visitors to observe your elevated park etiquette, be cautious of your surroundings, and to keep the location of any small children pets within a tighter scope of awareness. Do not approach the creature, meaning Bigfoot. Report any sightings to a ranger, front office, or the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources office for missing persons. Do not post sightings on social media. And of course, it's in Spanish too.
That sounds like something Bigfoot would write.
Yeah. I love this. So, really what it is. So they're posting this all over the place. There's the actual dialogue we just talked about. Now, park officials in Pennsylvania, this article, and it's not the B, says they're playing dumb. The Department of Conservation and Natural Resources came out and called it all a hoax. A press secretary, again, for the Pennsylvania, of course, Department of Natural Resources said, quote, Bigfoot is not real. Quote, these signs were not posted by the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. Quote, we have seen them at parks for months, and they are removed whenever they're reported or found by staff because they have not been authorized. We have seen them at many parks, but I don't have a number for how many parks where the signs have been posted. So what it sounds like is somebody's having a really good time pissing off a bunch of state bureaucrats, which I'm okay.
I'm all for that.
Now, the sad thing is that rangers are actually removing these. I would love to get a copy of this. I would. I think that this would be great to put up on the wall.
Can you imagine? Yeah, and get it signed by Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's fascinating again, and we've talked about this, that most Bigfoot sightings, I would say most Bigfoot sightings that I would say to be credible, happen in the Pacific Northwest and in Northern California. But Pennsylvania, along with New Jersey, has also had its fair share of Bigfoot activity. According to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, I've never heard of that. It has 124 credible sightings. In the past, and this is the recent past, Oklahoma lawmakers proposed a Bigfoot hunting season with a cash prize.
What?
Of course, they didn't. No, it's true. They didn't want the creature dead. They just wanted some hard, cold evidence. Who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, aka the feds? Or are you going to believe a random piece of paper stapled to a tree? I'm going to tell you this without a trace of irony. At this point, I'm going to believe a random piece of paper stapled to a tree versus anyone in any function at state, local, or federal government.
Agreed. Yeah, I believe what I can see with my own eyes at this point, and a piece of paper nailed to a tree is real.
There's a lot of things I'm not going to say to dox myself. I'm just going to say that I felt that way before current day. Just going to say that. So, yeah, it's crazy, right? Yeah, why did the signs have to be white? Hashtag why the toxic whiteness? I know. Why can't that be on like blue paper or red paper? Oh, you guys, what a day. Thanks for being here. I love talking woo-woo with you all. Thanks for letting me vent. If you guys feel the same way about some of these more contentious issues, if things are getting to you, we're talking about doing an off the books channel member get together where you can vent, and we won't even play it. We'll just have a hangout where we can watch Bigfoot versus the Illuminati, which I think we need to do. And we can all get together like friends, because we kind of are. I mean, you know, it's just the world is getting strange, and it's pissing me off a lot. I'm just gonna say that. Purple Valkyrie, what do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. And if you are feeling this way, guys, just know that you're not alone. Really not. And we try to bring this in a humorous context, but it is there. You know, that's why we try to talk about it as much as we can, and yeah, kind of dance around the topic sometimes. But we're really grateful for you guys.
Not today. I'm full kamikaze on my channel just because whatever. Dempsey says, no. Watch Dark. Yes. Again,
Yes.
Watch Dark. Watch
Yes,
Dark.
it's
Watch Dark. It is one of the very few things in recent memory that gets better as it goes along. I couldn't make it through the first season of that ridiculous bullshit show that Amazon spent $1 billion on that I'm not even going to use its name for anymore, because it's beneath contempt. I've watched a couple of my friends' reviews on this. So I'm going to do is laugh and say, go watch Dark. I think you'd really, really enjoy Dark. You're welcome, Nerdscapes. Thank you for being here. And
Yes, thank you, guys.
Yeah, the awesome one. I think you and I both just clicked the same thing at the same time. Says, no, give Scott billions of dollars so he can hug people in Orlando. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Scott Baio?
No idea, but okay.
All the Bigfoots migrated to Los Angeles and San Francisco. No, they're called junkies and the mentally ill. They're not Bigfoot. Don't incite Bigfoot's good name. I love you, Jacob Mindset. You know what I mean. And then, of course, we couldn't have a show without talking about the Hadron Collider from Mr. Batsu. Says, when I used to think of the meme about the world changing when they activated the Hadron Collider was all just a joke. We seem to get daily evidence that it just may be true. Something happened. I talk about this with a lot of people, a lot of other fellow content creators. And there are some that have deeply held religious views that I respect. Evil exists. We may have forgotten that true evil exists, and evil. We all have a definition of what true evil is. To me, when you hurt children, I'm just gonna stop right there. You guys, this has been a great show. Dempsey says, I was surprised at how different Dark was on the second viewing. Dude, exactly. The same exact show felt completely different and made even more sense. I love writing like that. It's hard not to talk about it without giving it away. And what's nuts? is it's not until the last episode of the last season when you're like, whoa, no way. Good writing. They can do it. They just don't want to do it in
I
America
remember
because
that.
we have to eat bugs. We have to be demoralized. We have to have a transhuman agenda. There's nothing. Equity means poverty and disinformation. Purple Valkyrie, where can people find you? Thank you for being on the show today.
Well, thank you. I love getting to do this, and we really do. It's like we've talked about this before. It's a palate cleanser from the other stuff that we talk about. But thank you, and thank you guys for joining us today. I will be back. I might actually be back tomorrow because I need to do a catch-up show because I didn't do one on Friday because I was just too tired.
Slacker.
But I know. I deserve to be punished. So since it's Halloween, I might continue with the horror theme and just kind of have a chill stream and talk to you guys if you want to hang out for an hour. I think that might be fun. And then we'll be back on Wednesday. I might also be back on Monday. I'm just talking to somebody because I think we might be reviewing the oh God, help me! the final Halloween film that's just been released.
That's one of the first things you said to me today was like, oh my God, did that suck? That was effing terrible. It's like, that's 2 hours of my life I'm not getting back. And I'm like, Purple Valkyrie, when you start giving her mediocre horror movies.
And I have a
Frau Blucher.
Story.
Don't mess around with your horror movies. Yeah. Go ahead, Purple.
I have a very low bar when it comes to horror movies because I'll watch anything. But yeah, that was the thing that happened. So I might be reviewing that and making fun of it as well. But I just love getting to do these woo-woo shows. So thank you guys.
I do too. Dempsey says, I wish you all luck and fortune. That is a great outro that he does on virtually every show that I do. Hail to you. Daniel, it's great to see you. Dempsey, the awesome one. Sarah Green, Smile a While, Punk Waddle, Abomination AJ, Teresa, Zax. You guys are freaking awesome. And it's wonderful to see the same people here. And yeah, it's nice to vent some of this frustration. So.
It is. And guys, if you haven't checked out Salty's hard work on Dark Passages, please check it out because there is an absolute wealth of different content, readings, films that he's
digitally restored and remastered, and
exactly,
audio I've remastered too,
and something very exciting on the horizon as well.
Yeah. Something I've wanted to do for 30 years. Just going to say that. And I'm involving a lot of my friends and fellow content creators. And it's coming out on Halloween. Dempsey asked the question, Purple Valkyrie, before we GTFO. Is Halloween Ends worse than Rob Zombie's Halloween 2? Oh, look. Porn bots in chat.
I got it. Is it worse? It depends on whether you're a Rob Zombie fan, I guess. But I don't like Blumhouse. That's my problem. I think they're very mediocre whenever they take over a franchise, and Halloween is one of them, unfortunately. But I got a new appreciation for Rob Zombie's take. I will say that.
See, I don't like that stuff. I like Purple's been making me watch some horror movies, but I like kind of the Hitchcockian terror movies as opposed to horror and body horror. You guys are awesome. Just about to hit an hour and a half. I hope you have a really great Saturday and that this day lasts forever and Sunday lasts forever and the rest of your work week is easy and goes quickly. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being members of my channel. Thank you for your comments. Big thank you to Purple Valkyrie. Thank you to Zax for suggesting that crazy, what was the name of that damn thing again, Purple Valkyrie? Werewolf thing?
That was the Beast of Gendarme.
I am Frau Blucher.
One more time. You guys have a great weekend. We'll see you all soon. Take care.